the biggest clash yet of the 2025 season. They go like Dungiaho scores! That's the biggest moment of the game yet, and it goes to the Chiefs.
Chipping, they're chasing, Springer keeps it on the target, he's going to score!
Donaldson off his shoulder, Donaldson looks infield for Potter! He slides it in, inside of the half, puts a little kick through, the chase coming, and Connor Grady, that is a beauty!
A win tonight avenges a loss to the Blues back in week 3. Bowden Barrett sends it towards the post and over. The Blues stay alive.
Tēnā koutou katoa, good evening. Welcome into the breakdown. Yes, you heard that loud and clear. The Blues are still alive. Jeff Wilson, Justin Marshall, you're laughing. And Millsy, the Blues are back, are they?
They are. They're not back, but I mean, they talked about the reset. It wasn't convincing, okay, but from a confidence point of view, Marshy, not bad.
Yeah, not bad. Yeah, look, a real ding-dong battle. And they're the ones you want to win. Like, you get into a scrap like that and your season's on the line, you want to get the W. And I think they did a really, really monumental thing by winning that game, regardless of how anybody saw it.
Monumental for the Crusaders as well, because they won in Fiji against the Drua for the first time.
They did. And, you know, we spoke about that last Sunday and I said, look, it could be pivotal. And quite crucial for their season. Never an easy place to win. They went over there. They were fantastic in the first half. Didn't let the Fijians play, the Drua play, and then closed the game out as they needed to. So great result for them.
Is it just me, or does anyone else get warm fuzzies when Moan Pasifika win matches and you hear their team song in the dressing room? Is it just me? Tell me it's not.
I'll tell you what, they weren't singing at half-time. They weren't singing at half-time.
they wouldn't have
It
been.
was a remarkable 40 minutes. I mean, the Blues, they're not gone. That's what the Blues aren't. They're not gone. And the Crusaders showed their quality. Moan Pasifika did for the first time back-to-back. They put two performances together. But the second 40 minutes was in stark contrast to the first 40, and there was no singing 20 minutes into this game. Everyone was going, well, maybe here we go again, and then they turned it around. I'm not sure what Tana Umanga said. I'm not sure what that coaching staff said. I'm not sure what Artie said, but whatever they did, it worked, and they are now looking forward to playing the Blues.
That is massive.
It is massive. That is, I mean, in terms of the context of seasons, if you think about it, the Blues need to win this game to stay alive. Again, they've still got to go again.
Okay, well, we're going to talk about all of that and more coming up over the next hour on the show. Damien McKenzie signed for 4 years and Goldie's happy. Is Scott Barrett playing well enough to captain the All Blacks? It's konnichiwa from Sam Cane. And should captains be pointing to the posts or the sideline? The boys are about to debate it. Yeah, Pick and Go is back for another week and we're getting straight into the heavy debates. Millsy, that is your Pick and Go. It is all on decision making.
Yeah, it certainly is. I mean, at the moment, it's about the 3 pointers. We're halfway through the regular round, and the decision making to go to points or score earlier on. You know, the weather's getting a little bit wet now as well. It's a little bit colder, slippery too. But the interesting part for me is the coaches are actually saying it's purely up to the leaders to decide whether they actually go for a shot. I mean, here on this occasion, you know, the Hurricanes, they went for the line. A man down from here got another penalty, and they decide to go for a shot at goal. When you would have thought maybe perhaps they might do have another sort of crack. And again, I mean, the Reds, man, I just can't get over the last, how many games? How many 30-odd points I've sort of turned down?
They haven't taken a shot at goal all year. Taken a penalty, Mills. I don't understand it when I think about rugby IQ and circumstances and changing momentums and games and shifting and just scoreboard pressure and earning the points, you know, when you've been in a situation where you go, I've got to come away with something. It just seems as though some teams are just happy to not come away with something. They're happy to chase more points, Marshy. Is it something you've seen and you go, you know what? It comes down to players having a gut feeling and going, you know what? We're going to score a try here. It's almost automatic. Yeah,
that gut feeling traditionally, more so in the modern game, has been about we can get more than 3, isn't it? And particularly when they are not bankable threes. You know, if they're 40 metres out, whatever, there's a little bit of 50-50 aspect in it. Then they're quite confidently going to go for the touch and go for the more, lucrative option. But we saw a stark contrast. What you're talking about is absolutely right in the Reds game. They had good pressure and decided for more and didn't get them and didn't bank them. But then at Eden Park,
the Blues.
it was like, hang on, what's going on here?
Yep.
The teams went really insular and decided to bank all their threes. So it was really bizarre.
Is it something that's going to continue? Do you think there'll be some learnings done here? Do you think, all of a sudden the coaches from upstairs are going to, we might need to take a little bit of control in the situation?
Well, we've asked, but I think they do. They need to take a bit of control. And then we'll talk about that later, about the table and how it's sort of tightly sort of contested this competition is. Surely at the sort of business end of the season, you'll be thinking, I'm banking points because I want a home final or home quarter.
When do the coaches step in then?
Well, they don't want to. But they will. We talked to Clark Laidlaw after the game, and I asked him the question about some of Duplessis Kirifi's decisions. Particularly when the Blues were down to 14, scrum under the post, depowered scrum. Game was still very tight there. Do you grab the ball by the scruff of the horns and go, right, hey, let's grab this game now, which they've been doing. And for some reason or another, in the enormity of the game, I don't know what it was, the occasion, it changed. So, and he said we'll need to talk about that. Because we felt in the box, we should have been taking different decisions. But they can't control that within the 80 minutes. They've got to educate so that next time the right decisions are made.
The same things happened to the All Blacks on the end of your tours last year, right? Razor was getting asked the same
Scott Barrett one.
The Scott Barrett one.
Yeah.
Or we can go back to a Rugby World Cup final, where before we took the one to try, we turned down the opportunity to take points in the belief, we've got some momentum. But when you don't come away with points, it actually elevates the opposition that you're playing against. When you go to the corner and they defend it, all of a sudden they get a lift and they go, we're going to get out of here now, and you've lost that opportunity to take those points.
Which is what the Chiefs did to the Reds.
Yeah.
They got out of trouble, got down to the other 40, and what happened? Penalty, shot for goal. Off.
Okay, well, you tee off now because it is time for your pick and go.
I'm not teeing off. What I am is it's the Australian teams that we're highlighting a lot here, where the Waratahs are very similar. The fact they've turning down opportunities. But I'm starting to look at these Australian teams, and I think the impact of Joe Schmidt and Mike Cron, that in the last 15 months they've been over there, I think you're starting to see it in terms of the skill sets of the players, the impacts, particularly up front in their props, they are better. Now, I think in terms of the matchups against New Zealand teams, they're having better reward up front than they've had for a long time. They're scoring line-out more driving tries against New Zealand sides. That hasn't happened in the past. New Zealand teams have been able to defend that. So all of a sudden, they're getting confidence, they're getting belief, and I look across their selections and what they're capable of doing. If they can find a 10 to drive them around the park. Now, that's their biggest question mark right now. If they can find a 10 as they go on... Well, Noah Lolesio has signed to go offshore, and Marshy tells me, and I think you're right from what we've read, Joe Smith's not going to select him. So he's the guy last year who played, I think, the last 4 test matches of the year on tour and against the All Blacks twice.
Yes.
So he was the guy who was given the experience. Now he's decided he's playing offshore. He's not going to be available unless Joe Smith changes his mind. And... are we going to look, if you look at it right now, Donaldson, McLaughlin Phillips, who we saw on the weekend, you start throwing these guys in the mix. But I see, the reason I want this conversation is all of the other players are around. I'm seeing the loose forwards, they've got plenty on offer. You think about Hooper, you think about McWright, you've got Wilson, Tizano, they've got players. So I think their forward pack's starting to come together. Halfback, I'm not concerned. I saw Joseph So'oliti up live on the weekend. Dang, man, he's dangerous. I mean, and I think on the wing, he's going to be a real threat. I think I've got Tom Wright.
On the wing for the Wallabies?
I got Tom Wright at fullback for me. I'm just sort of going, I've seen Joe Schmidt and what he's doing, what Mike Cron started to do up front.
I love
They're
that.
a threat.
I love that. I love how you put it down to Mike Cron and Joe Schmidt, both Kiwis, right? Now they're forward packs.
But I'll say this though, but all of a sudden I really like what Les Kiss is doing. I like what Stephen Larkham's doing, Dan McKellar, and clearly what's happening over. And Liam McDonald's coaching somewhere as well, eh? Oh, he's coaching at the Force. He's an assistant coach over there. So I'm just going on that. For me, like I said, I've had my rant, I've had my little go, but I'm seeing some development there.
But I feel it's not just a problem for Australia. It's a worldwide problem, that first 5 jersey. Like, if I think of one player that's probably got a mortgage on a jersey, it's Finn Russell.
Yep.
Which Smith do you pick for England? All Blacks. Who's the starting team for the All Blacks? We're always debating that, it's...
So the Nines, there's quality around the world.
Ireland are struggling with that jersey at the moment.
I'll tell you who's not struggling. It's South Africa.
Yeah, true.
They've got about four guys that they've given opportunities, and they've all been really good. So they're the one team. So what does all that mean for Australian rugby and how they've started Super Rugby? Well, have a look at the table, because they've got 4 of the top 6. Now, there's some carnage going to happen over the next few weeks because there's some derbies to happen across this side of the Tasman and over there. So all of a sudden, this is going to change. But if you were to say to me, we're 8 rounds in, There are 4 Australian teams right now, and if you watch them play, they've all done some really positive things, and these are the other teams. The Blues had a win, and they couldn't even get off second. They're still second from bottom, but one win against the Hurricanes has got some results, but then all of a sudden the Hurricanes play the Crusaders. So there's going to be some movement here. Highlanders are desperate. They need a win as well. But for me, that's why the Wallabies are stronger. Australia's looking good.
Okay, Marsha, you were fired up last week. Never seen you like that for a wee while. What about this week?
Yeah, well, like this week, I really wanted to highlight the fact that I'm loving the way that the innovation has come into out of the hand kicking and the confidence of the players to then go to kicks that are not traditional. So the traditional kick is not this one, which Beauden Barrett peeled off a couple of yesterday, which is the spiral kick. And you can see here, he's really getting good coverage from it. But equally, he was quite happy to then go for the banana kick. And the way that he did that was absolutely outstanding, you know, like he's finding ground, he's finding momentum. He's not the only one doing it. Josh Jacob, with absolutely no angle whatsoever, the banana kick, and they are peeling off massive, massive meters. And being able to do that is really beneficial to the team. So it made me think, righto, let's think of some blasts from the past, players that were creative. Here's one, Carlos Spencer, off the knee. Now that's innovation and really hard to read as a defender. Equally, Mertz, he could bang a spiral like nobody else. That's from behind his own goal line, bangs it 70 metres downfield, real net gain. And then equally, look at this, Lima Sopawanga, we'll all remember this. Now, probably a little bit of Tony Brown in this, but to actually turn your back on the opposition, over the top, the players knew what was coming, but to implement that, to get it bang on, look at that, head down, knew where it was going, absolutely outstanding. And yeah, look, it's about describing what we're talking about. So the traditional way to hit a ball, to get that rotation like that, is just a normal punt where you hit the ball there. If you want to hit a spiral, you get the ball on the side where you make it spiral and it goes like that. Now the banana kick, when they're going out to the right, what you want to do is hit the inside of the ball, you hit it there and it curves away. Another kick that we don't see that often, which I loved, I used to harass Ben Blair, our fullback, just before kickoff. He'd like a couple just to get his confidence. And I'd say, I'll give you a couple. Used to like hit it in the belly of the ball and give him a snowflake, because it'll go up, and if you get it right, it comes down, and he'd be like all over the place. So not a great confidence booster, but absolutely loving the ability for the players now to have the confidence to get the ball and try something different.
Okay, hold on. We've just got to address something. Yeah, Marshy is the ultimate professional, because for the first 20 seconds of his footage, he's trying to find his rugby ball under the desk.
No. You know what I was doing? You know how the halfbacks nowadays, that they go like this to get the ball out. I used to go in and grab it to get it out. But I was doing the old hop.
It would have been a scrum. It would have been a scrum. You would have been a scrum, no doubt about it.
About 5 seconds would have been gone.
Marsha, you're brilliant. No one would have known a thing if I didn't say anything.
It was John Preston. It was John Preston who did exactly that. He loved it, the snowflake. He did a box kick like all day, and you just knew it was coming. And so hard to take care of, absolutely.
Thank you for those pick and goes, particularly thank you for yours and keeping us three here thoroughly entertained. Let's take a look at Super Rugby by the numbers after round 8. Today we are comparing cards. Jeff, you've had a look. What are they saying in 2025?
Well, the numbers saying that there are more. There are a number more this year than there has been last year, but I think it's a different mindset that they've come in with in terms of the TMO and the referees. And here they are year by year over the last 4 seasons. So 1.15 yellow cards per game. In terms of red cards, from last season to this season, seen a drop there, just a slight drop as well. But the percentages of games with cards has clearly gone up. So 3/4 of games have got cards in them. And I think if we look at it as a whole, though, we've seen less TMO in 2025, but I think the referees have been very quick to make decisions, and particularly around the professional fouls. They've decided to go, you know what, if we're getting a repeat infringements, it could be in the first 10 minutes, you're gone. Whereas in the past, you're usually waiting 30 minutes for something like that to happen. If there's a, like you say, an unsportsmanlike or deliberate act, they're going very quickly, bang, you're gone. Now, it's a matter of having the balance right. The contact area, though, team, it still remains contentious, and there was a couple over the weekend, Mills, that were a little bit, you'd have to say, were they right, were they wrong, or just that grey area that is rugby union?
Oh, no, I don't think it's been just over the weekend. I think it's been throughout the whole competition. There's been a few sort of, I suppose, it's how you interpretate the thing. Now, the one we're talking about is Patrick Tuipulotu's one. Now, I had the opportunity to see it live like this. I thought, at the time, I thought, oh, well, yeah, he's almost already targeted it already, and they actually are falling. But when you slow it down, It does look really bad. On the day, obviously the TMO thought it was yellow, well, the referee thought it was a yellow card, came off, and mitigating factor was the fact they dropped. Clark Laidlaw didn't think that, and we heard this from him after the game.
Look, I'm not sure about that incident, but I watched Raymond Tuputupu got sent off last year at the Chiefs, and he was this height off the ground, making a tackle. So I find it really interesting that somebody can be fully stood up at 6'4" with a shoulder charge to the head.
Yeah, so Clark Laidlaw clearly not happy with the decision. Patrick Tupelo to yellow card on report, cleared, went back on. Patrick subsequently is going to the judiciary. So he will front up for that. So potentially there is more to come from this. What did you make of that incident?
Yeah, look, it's a good argument. But pardon?
Will he get banned?
Well, he'll have the ability to defend himself in a way that I agree with Mills, that what he was seeing was a player already being tackled and starting to drop. What he's just slightly got wrong is his timing. And that happens so frequently in the game, it's not funny. So that will be his defence. And if you've got the right people looking at it, they will understand that, because he'll just say, pause it here, which will be 1.5 metres or 1 metre before he's about to make that contact. And everything he's seeing and the height that he's at will show him hitting the chest. But then all of a sudden, the pulling down of the other player, it all changes in a second like that. And that will be what he's saying. And I understand that, because we've all been there, haven't we? So, look, will he get off or not? It depends who's looking at it. And look, there was no harm done to the receiving player, and I do think they look at that as mitigation.
I can't see him getting off this one, because I think there's enough force. There's a lot of force in it, and I think...
Well, there wasn't an action IA, was there?
And that's one of the great questions you have.
So how much force was there?
He's a tough fella, though.
There's no blood, there's...
I know, I get all that.
Point, though, if he's dipping and he's already committed, okay, and they're fighting, you got to remember, that fight, he's already talked to himself, okay, there's where my point is, point of hitting. Now, if he's going, you're not going to undercommit and go, oh, hold on a sec, I'm not going to do it with force. So I think what Clark Laidlaw is saying is his arm has ended up sort of straight. And so that was when I kind of thought to myself, well, hey, if you've already committed and you know that that's where you're going to hit, and they're fighting to try and keep up or come down, you're already going to hit that. You can't stop midway.
Patrick did admit, though, that he was concerned himself.
He was nervous.
He was nervous himself when he was going to the bin, going, I know that I've collected him here. I know it's happened. And to your point, whether it was just a natural rugby play, I definitely think it was a yellow card. I have no issue with that. Whether it should have got upgraded, I'm not sure. I can tell you what wasn't a yellow card was the one that happened in Hamilton with the Reds with Jeffrey Tu'umunga Allen, because it took us about 5 minutes to even find the contact that the TMO Brett Cronin was looking at here. And where you can look at this footage yourself and go, what contact is he actually talking about here? That there is a yellow card, guys.
Yeah.
I mean, that's absurd. Absolutely absurd to think that... And should he have possibly done it? Probably not. But there was no force in this. It's an arm as the player's ducked his head into it in a breakdown. Now, if I went to half the breakdowns in that game, you'd see a collision that was more direct, more to the head, two guys who are ducking into tackles, more than that one there. So come on. Yeah. That's one that you can't stop a game for. And if no one can find it, seriously, come on.
Oh, look, I want to make a really brief point as quickly as I can about that, which is very simplistic to me. At the end of the day, we have heard the directive is the TMOs will only be used if absolutely necessary. Now, Brett Cronin thought that was absolutely necessary. None of us did. And nor should have the referee. He is the controlling figure in that game. He has the power. Nick Berry should have said, I've seen what you've shown me. At worst, it's a penalty. It's not a yellow card. Let the game continue. Yeah. And he didn't have the mindset to do that. And he should know that he has. Yep. You know, like he can say, no, we've seen that. I've seen it on the big screen. Play on. Or, OK, you've highlighted it. It is contact. Penalty only. And I think that's where they've dropped the ball massively in that occasion.
Well, we're going to play on now and leave the discipline chat behind us and talk about standout players from round 8. There is a theme being picked up in the last 8 rounds because the same players are starting to get mentioned, not Duplessis, Karifi this time around. But, Marsha, we're going to go with you first because you've gone with Ardie Savea, who continues to be selected week on week for what he's doing. Yeah,
absolutely. But for me, not by me. And
this is the first time he stood out to you?
Yeah, no, this is the reason that it's not been by me, because I feel a little bit like maybe the rest of the rugby world, not just people in New Zealand. The World Rugby Player of the Year is expected to play like this. But what you've got to recognise is he's doing things on the rugby field that others cannot do in any jersey. And recognition needs to come, because that expectation level was so high that when a player's playing that well, it's very easy to be dismissive of it. And look, I've probably been watching him, you know, yes, he had an injury and he's come back, but the last 2 weeks, breaking tackles, in close, you know, defending, chipping, he's just into everything. And I think probably the areas he is playing in at the moment is really suiting. The way Moan Pasifika are playing is enabling him to play his best rugby.
I love his speed off the back of the scrum. We all love that. His dynamic running when he's got an opportunity, and the platform's been really good, but it's more around the edges for me that he should be doing it, not just for them, but in the black jersey, because he has incredible speed and athleticism and footwork. The fact we shouldn't be running him in to double tackles. We should be using him in areas where all of a sudden he can free his arms, he can run support lines, he can use that strength and power he has, and he can finish like great outside backs. He can do that because he's so hard to bring down. So for me, not just for these days with the Hurricanes, but when he was doing it for Moan Pasifika, but the All Blacks when they've used him well, and I think that's when we've used our number 8s really well, is they on the outside channel. That's when Kieran Reid was at his best for me. The ability to offload and carry. He can do that. We've just got to find other guys to put up their hand in the middle of the park to carry the ball. And we've got guys with size. Tupou Vai, we've got Tamaiti Williams, you know, we've got Sabasoni Tokiaho, Safa Amua, Cody Taylor. Get some of these guys, get them on the edge, let them carry.
There's an ulterior motive, sorry, Mills, isn't there in that, though, that I can decipher from what you're saying, which is you don't feel the All Blacks are doing that.
I don't think they are, no. But Tom, we keep
like,
running him into the big bodies in the middle of the park, trying to out-muscle guys who are actually bigger and stronger than him. He'll stay in the fight. He'll wrestle and keep going, but get him a little bit of space and a little bit of footwork in the opportunity. I think he can create so much more.
And look what's happening at the Moana. Who has he got doing that? You know, Feilangi's in there, you know, and so that allows him to get on the outside channel. So what you're really saying is find a number 8, or find a number 6.
Or find a 6
for the All
who
Blacks,
can do those jobs, who can do that job in the middle of the park.
Wow.
He can play 8. This all comes around to how you see, Wallace Satiti and when he comes back. But for me, it's how you use your loose forwards and getting the balance right.
Yeah.
And having, you know, like I say, I've got Duplessis and Karifi in my conversation. It's just the balance that you need and have.
If someone fills that jersey appropriately, Artie can play 7, no problem. At the end of the day, he could play centre. But, and that's what the conundrum is. But there's been no answer since Kieran Reid. So Artie just goes there and plays World Rugby Player of the Year type rugby. So, yeah, in answer to your question, if there was a Wallace Satiti there, Artie can shift to the flank and he can play there very, very well.
Well, what about Luke Jacobson? He's your player of the round, Mr. Consistency. How does he fit into the All Blacks picture?
Well, he plays in the same jersey, so it's you know, they're playing in the same jersey for their teams respectively and doing jobs that their teams desperately need them to do. And for me, Jacobson, he is a tight number 8. He has great running lines. He is powerful in the tackle. His work rate. He's good off the back of the scrum. Runs good lines as well. But I think for me, it's his defence. But then it's his leadership, getting consistent minutes. The Chiefs need leadership. They're certainly still a team that needs to get someone to keep driving them, and I think he's a no-nonsense type of player, Mills, and they're getting exactly what you need out of a versatile player who I think last year had one of his most impactful seasons in the All Black jersey when he got an opportunity.
He hasn't gone over the ball as much this year as well. I think he's just really focused on, you know, hard ball running and getting himself in that that physical sort of side. I want to go back to the, you know, if you're going to put him at number 8 for the black jersey and have Artie at 7, I mean, not a bad option to actually carry that sort of stuff. So, to answer your question before about Artie, I would have Artie at 7. You look for a number 8. You got Finau, you got Jacobson, you got a Larkai. Put Artie at 7 and have a Jacobson there and make them find and put your best player where he wants to play and his best played at.
You're celebrating.
Yeah, I love it. I love it. Yeah, I'm the same page.
So who's the 8 then?
Well, that's what I'm saying.
Who is it? If Artie's the 7, who's the 8?
See, here's the funny thing. You're putting the number on the back of the jersey. There's no reason you can't just put Jacobson to the side of the scrum and put Artie to number 8, right? If you want Artie to explode off the back of the scrum. There's no rhyme or reason in the fact that the numbers on the back of the shirts. I mean, you think about what England have done. They moved a guy who was a midfielder and put it at number 8. Yeah. You know, to get the skill set that you're looking for in certain parts of the game, right? That's what being a coach is. Showing a bit of versatility. The All Blacks put Jonah Lomu at the back of a scrum.
Yeah, well, that at my expense.
Wow.
To a degree. No, he actually played halfback. John Hart put him at halfback and he put the ball into the scrum. and John made me go stand on the wing. I thought very inferior to my skill set around there. And actually, Jonah put the ball into the scrum 5 metres out and scored.
Yeah.
It's like, oh my goodness. I think my time is really limited here.
Well, we will not be completing the loose trio with your player of the round, Millsy. You've gone with someone completely different.
I have. I've gone for a player that has been out for 4 weeks, a player that needed to come back when their team are desperately in need of some form and a win, and that's Beauden Barrett. I like the way he sort of came out of the blocks, started strong, hit the sort of close channels when there was opportunities, but also, you know, rang the cutter. He understood. You talked about his kicking game. I mean, I said to him after the game, man, those banana kicks. I mean, what was he practicing those? Or his skill set was amazing. But what I loved about it is, hey, he knew, he understood, hey, these guys are under pressure. He was nice and calm. Okay, he made a couple of mistakes. But when you've been out for 4 weeks and have a performance like that and get the W for the team that's desperately needing of it, he's my player of the week.
Without a massive change in the game plan as well.
Yeah.
We were expecting, we were chatting before the game, thinking, are we going to see this slight little bit of innovation? But they basically sucker punched the Hurricanes into playing the style they wanted them to and brought them into their zones all afternoon, all evening, and Beauden orchestrated that.
Yeah. 100% he did.
Great to see Beauden Barrett back and playing very well in his first game back. But Damian McKenzie's also back 4 more years. Can I use that line here? 2029. He has signed on with New Zealand Rugby for 4 years until the British and Irish Lions series here in New Zealand. It is a wonderful 4-year calendar if you think about it. Massive tour to South Africa next year. And then the Rugby World Cup, potentially a sabbatical clause in there for Damian in 2028 before the Lions tour at New Zealand. Just how big is this signing for such a long period of time, considering Richie Mo'unga is not coming back from Japan early, Jeff?
Significant, really significant, because it gives them a little bit of security, because it's something they didn't have in the position. Yes, Beauden Barrett's committed to the next Rugby World Cup, but to have someone long-term, and you've made a big investment here, and my understanding this is one of the biggest the All Blacks have ever made, New Zealand Rugby's ever made in a player, they needed this, because we probably don't have a third first five at the moment with no Richie Mo'unga being signed. We don't have a guy who you would entrust to give to the jersey, and we probably haven't developed one in the last 7 or 8 years at a lower level to come up and be ready. You know, there are guys who have been in and out in the 10, 15 positions, but for me, Damian McKenzie's done the one thing I wanted to do, is I wanted someone to commit. I wanted someone to be obsessive about helping the All Blacks win a Rugby World Cup, because that's what our legacy is built on, is winning Rugby World Cups. We need more players to commit. I said the same thing when Rieko Ioane signed long term, that if we can get guys whose focus, guys, for me, is on getting the All Blacks back to where they should be, is the #1 team in the world. You do it long term, for me, you're looking at it from a bigger picture. You're not worried about you, you're seeing the legacy, the environment you want to be a part of.
What does this signal? Does it signal that Razor is putting his eggs in Damian McKenzie, that Damian is the 10 for the All Blacks going forward? Is that what this deal tells you?
I don't think so. I think if you're playing the devil's advocate, and why not it be me? And there'll be many out there saying the same thing. It's like, well, if you're saying it's one of the biggest, if not the biggest deals ever dished up to a player by the New Zealand Rugby Union to retain his services, has he shown consistency enough to be offered a contract like that? Because he hasn't had times where he's been consistently picked. But then if you want to lob a grenade in there, probably the rationale behind that is, for him, is the fact that, well, I haven't had that consistency, so I've got plenty of options elsewhere to go. So he actually probably had massive terms to be able to dictate, didn't he? Because New Zealand are thinking, well, we don't really want to lose this bloke. And everyone else is saying, well, we really want him. So it put him in a really strong position. I think he's played that really well. Good on him. And yeah, I guess now that you've got a long-term commitment and no offshore noise, maybe that makes him a more consistent player and more confident in the fact that he knows where he's going to be for the next 4 years.
Yeah, I think timing's perfect for him. There's no one really there, but you're right. I think to your point, I mean, when you sit there and go, okay, well, is he the out-and-out 10 this year? We still don't know. Is he the fullback? We still don't know. But then on the other side of it too, I mean, how much of a decision is that for Damian McKenzie? We know he would have got significantly way more than what he's been offered. So to back himself to go, well, okay, well, I'll stay. Okay, it might sort of cut it a little bit. But now he's got to back himself to be whichever position the man in that position.
Do we agree that Will Jordan's their #1 fullback?
Well, yeah, well, I feel so, yes.
Do you think
Unless he has a massive
Not really.
form.
You're not sure?
I still think Damian could be our fullback.
Okay, so that's where we've got 3 guys that have to fit into 2 starting. And whoever the third guy is has to understand their role. Now, the Will Jordan part you can put on the wing, right? But all of a sudden it means you're having to play and drop somebody else. So I know we've got an All Black discussion here, but when you're watching these guys play, you're going, how are they all going to fit? Part of coaching one of the best teams in the world is convincing all of those people how to play their role, and how their role might change from week to week. And, you know, yes, you might not be starting this week, but your biggest impact's going to be off the bench. And so everyone's, yes, you're fighting for time like you're talking about and being the number one, but sometimes giving guys opportunities, trying to find the right combination. But as I've said, we're a 23-man game, and sometimes convincing that guy to be the best player off the bench is the most important conversation.
It's a huge commitment from Damien McKenzie as well. Like, you'll know this from being in the game, that, you know, a player that commits for that period of time when he's 29 and he'll be kind of in his mid-30s by the time he is available for offshore, you lose a lot of your appeal because of your longevity, particularly in that jersey. And, you know, you get to mid-30s, and happy birthday, by the way, Kirsty. I won't say your age on camera, but anyway, you know, all of a sudden you're not as appealing. So for Damien McKenzie, he went, you know what, this is where the future is, and this is where my future is, and that's great for New Zealand, great for him, great for us.
Absolutely. Well said, Marshy. Well, plenty more still to come on the breakdown. We have the big guns being rolled out. Sam Cane joins us on the program next, and we talk about the All Blacks leadership.
What's some of the ones that you're like, yo, this is the one I use in it?
Oh, I quite like Yoye Chinishio,
Okay.
which means have a good day.
Oh, okay.
It sounds nice too. Yoye Chinishio.
Sorry, bro.
You can use it when we leave.
I just know Kauai, that's all.
Yoye Chinishio.
What's some other goodies?
Amoshiroi.
Right. I thought I was watching Kill Bill for a second there, brother.
It can be interesting. Moshiroi. Or, it's quite funny, Moshiroi. How you say it. Moshiroi.
Bro, I felt that. You know what, bro? You didn't even have to tell me what that was.
You could tell the difference.
I could feel it, Sam. I felt it right there, brother.
Okay.
We're ready now. Leadership-wise, you've been the leader and the captain and stuff like that. Like, just learning that leadership skill. Who were some of those ones that you learned that from?
Like, I suppose in the time, as you're coming through, I was never looking at players like trying to pick up their leadership stuff. Like, it was never a goal or an ambition of mine to be a captain of teams or be a leader. The stuff that I picked up was probably just like almost by accident, but you're also lucky to be, I think I was lucky to have so many good leaders. Like, my first couple of years in the Chiefs, we won those back-to-back titles, and it was Craig Clark and Liam Messon, both very different leaders. My first 4 years in the ABs, I had Richie as skipper, and then Kieran Reid, like Aaron Cruden at the Chiefs, he's an outstanding leader.
Yes, Sam Cane had some fantastic leaders to learn from, but anyone that played with him just lauded him and the type of leadership that he brought to a group. And I guess we saw that, Jeff, last year when the All Blacks brought him back from Japan because they needed him.
Yeah, I don't think he was in the plans originally. And then all of a sudden, when Scott Robertson got in there and all of a sudden he saw his group and he felt as though he needed some on-field leadership and experience off the field as well, he brought Sam Cane in and he just trained with them, worked with them, got back to fitness, and then he didn't have any practice games. I think he might have had one Thames Valley or someone he played with, in a Heartland game. He then went into the All Blacks and was starting at open side in big test matches, and so what I want to show, and I've done some numbers in and around, and I talked about World Cups and talked about leadership. Interesting you mentioned Ardie Savea and what he's doing with Moan Pasifika, but around 2015, we had this really established leadership group, which, and this is back-to-back World Cup wins, and McCaw, Mialamu, Reid, Whitelock, Carter, Smith. These are household names, guys who were great All Blacks. And then you went to 2023 and we're one play away from winning a Rugby World Cup and a World Cup final. Sam Cane, Dane Cole, Sam Whitelock, Ardie Savea, Aaron Smith, Beauden Barrett, Rieko Ioane. These are guys, I'm talking about guys who I understand were close to the leadership or right there. It's about what we have now for the next couple of years. So who's going to be that leadership group? Mills, you were part of it in 11, going to that pinnacle. And at the moment, you know, like, I'm not sure where Scott Barrett's form is as a player. I'm a little bit concerned. Didn't go to Fiji. You know, he's the All Black captain. I know what he's capable of as a player. He's been slow to start this year. And I'm not saying he's not going to be an All Black, you know, but just for his confidence and his impact he can have on the group as one of the players that owns his spot and can go out there and lead the rest of the players, he's going to need some real support, Mills, Marshy. Where's that going to come from over the next couple of years to take us to the pinnacle where we're trying to get back to?
Well, it's hard to fill the void that the All Blacks have lost. You know, you lose guys like Aaron Smith, Sam Whitelock, Sam Cane. Straight away, there's, 300 tests there? Yeah. So it's like...
Jane Coles,
exactly.
keep them coming.
So it's huge, and I think that's the development process in terms of leadership that Scott Robertson's going through. At the end of the day, like their final quarters last year were not good. And that's where that type of experience is absolutely paramount, because you have a group of players, not one or two little individuals you pick off, a group of players that congregate, that get together, and they find ways to win those test matches. Where's the answer? You did say Marshy and Mills. So I've made a point.
Because it's not an easy thing to answer right now, Mills.
It isn't, because he isn't playing well. And you seldom see your All Black captains sort of go through Super Rugby and sort of not perform. And I just wonder whether he's carrying something. I actually do. I think perhaps he's carrying an injury, or... I'm not that worried, though, to be totally honest. I'm not worried because I think it's a great chance for him. I know he's not the captain of the Crusaders, and the Crusaders are in a good spot in terms of the Super Rugby campaign. I think it's a good time for him to start sort of... He's obviously behind closed doors, starting to sort out the All Black side. I'm not worried about his performance later on. I think it could actually be a blessing in disguise. But I do think at some stage, and we're only halfway through, he has to start performing, because the last thing we want to be having in an All Black jumper is... Who's going to be captain? Is it going to be Artie? Is it going to be Sam Whitelock when it happened? You know, those are the doubts you don't want, you know, guys in the environment, and you talk about the leadership group, you want to snub those fires out quick and easy and quick and fast before the season actually starts.
Yeah, I agree. Could I will say something reasonably random. Do you think it would be harmful for him to play on the blind side of the scrum?
For the Crusaders?
Yeah.
Oh, not at all. I mean, I have no issue with that.
I just feel
whatsoever.
at the moment, the work he's doing in the middle is not giving him the balance that we know that he can have as a player. And if he was to go off the side of the scrum, because he can distribute, he can play second receiver.
Is this not just for the Crusaders? Is this for the All Blacks as well?
It's just for him
to
carry
hard.
find his mojo again. So you can carry hard at blindside, but equally you can balance your game a bit better. You don't have to play as tight. You don't have to clean every ruck, which he's doing at the moment, and he's doing it effectively.
So temporarily, you'd like to move from lock into the loosies at number 6 just to get his confidence back.
Yeah, and equally, like they've got some depth at lock at the moment, the Crusaders, and yes, they have in the loose forwards as well. But we know he can play blindside, and maybe that might be refreshing for him as well. He hasn't got the captaincy's armband. You know, maybe just say, hey, we're going to give you a couple of weeks on the side of the scrum, and let's see how that rock and rolls.
It's not completely random, Marshy.
Yeah.
Just a little bit.
No. Look, I agree with you, because you just want players playing with confidence.
Yeah.
And he's well and truly, he's got every opportunity to get back to his best. Just we haven't seen it yet, you know, and the fact I want the other players to have confidence in him. And so when I look at it, you look at what type of players have we had in the past, and we've been blessed in this country, right? We've all been lucky.
Sam Cane name-dropped a few. I mean, you guys have both captained the All Blacks, but Sam Cane name-dropped Richie McCaw, say for one. You've been captained by him, Mills.
Yeah, not a bad captain, eh, Richie McCaw. I mean, it was a great man. And what I loved about Richie is the fact that he had a different type of dynamics in terms of his... One, he led from the front, right, with his actions. But two, behind closed doors, you talk about the leadership group. That's a very important group, because you've got to actually try and make sure everyone's happy. You talk about leaders that, you know, what position, you know, some leaders have to come off the bench. Some leaders don't even play. And so how do you keep this sort of group happy? Richie was perfect at that. I mean, he would say things that he when he wanted to, but he used other people to talk to guys like Jerry Collins, that often went sort of rogue, you know, so he'd use a Kevin Mealamu to sort of get his message across to him. So I loved the way Richie sort of went about his business, but also the collective effort that he made sure that all the leaders were accountable in terms of the whole sort of squad in itself. So
Did he ever hold you accountable, Mills?
We're pretty close, mate. Being from no, so
That'd be a no. That'd be a no.
We had good chats, mate. We had good chats.
Who are some of the best captains that you two have had?
Yeah, look, I thought Sam Cane sort of worded it really well, and we're probably all the same. You play under great leaders, and it's really hard to sort of nail down which one was the better one. And I was captained by Richie McCaw, I was captained by Sean Fitzpatrick, Tana Umanga. It's just greats of the game. But equally, you then have to think, who do you feel probably got the most out of you as an individual and as a player, and who did you respond to kind of the most? And for me, it was Todd Blackadder. He was an early captain for me in my career, not only for the Canterbury and the Crusaders, but equally for the All Blacks. And I just felt that he had a leadership that it was a combination of follow me type style and do it by actions, but equally when he spoke, which was rare, he cared about every minute, every training run, he cared, particularly in that red and black jersey, and you felt that. So when he spoke, you knew that he was doing it because he wanted the best for the team, not for him, for the team, and that really resonated with me.
He left everything in the jersey.
Oh man,
and a bit more. Yeah. He was done at the end of it. He was spent. Like when you watch Toddy play, he played to the best of his ability for the maximum amount of time. He just kept going hard, just kept going hard, and pick himself back up, which is what Sean Fitzpatrick always did.
Absolutely,
because he was in the middle of the fight. Because he was usually a little bit offside. He was usually in the face of somebody. He was usually putting in a little bit of action, because the old days there was about 3 cameras on every game. That was it, But he was leading by a little bit of antagonising, but also he was going, follow me. Okay, I'm going to take them on, I'm going to step up, and they're going to give me their best, and I might look a little bit beaten up every so often, but I'll keep picking myself up, and then I will take other players with you. And look, I was privileged in my early days, as a young All Black, to have him as my leader, as my captain, because, as much as you knew he was tough, he just had empathy. He understood what you were going through, because he was a young All Black. He knew what was tough when he first... He was a baby black. So when he was really, really young, so he's seen players go through all of that. But then there's different types of leadership. And then you get the people who think they're the captain, but they're not. And Zinzan Brooke was one of those.
Oh, man.
So he was the guy that was running the ship from number 8. Like, when the backs make the calls? No, Zinzan was making the calls. And it was usually in the best interests of Zinzan and the team. The team. But he was a great player and had a great mind for the game. But when you sit down and have conversations, he would be able to describe things and know that whatever he was doing was about winning, was about being the very, very best, and he had a great mind for the game. And so sometimes it's not the guys who have the armband on, right? They're not the guys who have got the C beside their name. It's the other players who lead in different ways.
I feel like you've got a Zinny story to tell, Marshy.
Oh, look, I have, because, before a test match that we played in 1996, Zinny pulled me aside, and he wasn't the captain, it was against Scotland at Eden Park. And we hadn't trained this move, and he said, I've got a new move, and it's me, you and Ice, who was Michael Jones. He said, don't tell the coaches, don't tell anyone. I'd only played 3 tests at that stage.
So what did you do?
And basically we did this little nifty move 5 metres out from the thing, and I don't know, he called it Zinny or whatever he called it, and it involved me going back to Ice, and Zinny looked around and he scored under the post. Absolutely all about himself, but make sure that if it goes wrong, I didn't tell you and had nothing to do with me. Yes, Zinny, no problem.
Oh, that's brilliant. Well, time now for our Super Rugby moments of the weekend. We give props to the props, and the Flying Fijians, they make the list every week.
We start the moments with our try of the round. Yet another from the Flying Fijians.
Antonio Wonga throws the dummy. Wonga! Antonio Wonga gets the second try. They go bang bang in Super.
And how's this from 18-year-old Blues flanker Tofar Basin?
Getting it through the hands. Tofar Basin exposed. Out on the left-hand side. Does well to flirt with the touchline. Keep it in. Tofar Basin. Her third try in the 3 games. The 18-year-old, she is something special.
In the Tron, Sean Stevenson celebrated his ton.
A very big moment for one of the most talented players in New Zealand rugby.
Force flanker Carlo Tizzano is just 1 try behind Hoska Situtu's record 12 for a forward in Super Rugby. Not to be outdone, Moan Pasifika's number 3 bagging ahead.
Try and break through. Paul frees the pass. Oh, looking for 2. Oh, could he have 3? He might do. He's over the line, I reckon. What a day for Lefty Saito Paul. Has a hat-trick against the Waratahs.
First started rugby in year 9 at high school. I went to Southland Girls High. A lot of my friends played. One day they told me to, come to training. Yeah, I went along and just absolutely fell in love with it. I think what sparked my interest was, the aggression, the physicality, played touch, and I just loved, bring on footwork and have that agility. A team is so important and so special to be a part of. Every day I come to work, it feels like I'm just hanging out with my friends, and I absolutely love that. I love that rugby gives me a push every single day. No day is the same, and every day I'm trying to strive to be better, and I love that about rugby. The piece of advice I'd give to my younger self is just to give everything a go. Never be afraid of trying new opportunities, never be afraid of chasing extreme dreams. I think it's really important that, you just surround yourself by people that you love, people that, love you and want to see the best in you.
These women are going to need all the support in the world from their family, their friends and you, the fans, this weekend because it is the grand final of Super Rugby Pacific live match. Just after 7 o'clock on Saturday, it is prime time between the Blues women, who are the defending champions, and Amy Duplessis' Matatu, as we've just seen. Superstars galore on both sides. Yeah, Portia Woodman-Whitcliffe's, Caitlin Vaha-Korlos, and then there's some teenagers, Mills, who have been making waves in this competition.
Oh, it's off... Basin, man. I'll tell you what. You just seen her in those moments. The number 7 on the on the wide channels. You've spoken about the wide edge.
Wide edges.
18
and physically dominating.
Who won when these two teams met last time?
Matatu.
That's right, and that was away from home up at Whangarei.
Yeah.
So, I think early on in the season, I think there was a sense that the Blues, they looked so good. But the Matatu didn't play as well as they would have liked last weekend, but I think it's in the balance, right?
They all are.
It's a one-off. It's a one-off.
At the start of the season, they were blowouts. And this is evident of the fact that you give them a bit more time, 8 weeks, they have gotten a lot better. So imagine if you gave them more time pre-season to get themselves into the season, and a bit of an extended season, we're in for a goodie.
So who wins that final?
Matatu.
You have to say that.
Look, but the game earlier on in the season, obviously the Blues would have learnt a lot from it, and I felt that watching the game yesterday, they had to work their way through a bit of adversity. The game was tight. Yes, they pulled away in the finish, but they had to figure out, a way to make sure that they didn't allow them back into the game, and they did that. So that'll go a long way to big finals rugby.
Make sure you scan the QR codes on your screen. Get to Auckland and get to that Super Rugby Pacific final and support these women in a massive year. Rugby World Cup year, and we're really starting to see these players hit their peaks. Now, if we take a look at what else to watch this weekend, there's some exciting Super Rugby matches to come as well. Millsy, what should we be watching?
I'm looking forward to the Friday nighter. Your Crusaders, mate.
Oh, yeah.
You're
Against the...
back.
Hey, he's back.
You weren't saying that last week. Oh, you weren't saying that last week. You were gone for a week.
Well, they're on a high coming back from Fiji. Short turnaround, but of course the Canes are hurting. The Canes are hurting at home. So that's a biggie for me.
Do we see Scott Barrett on the side of the scrum this weekend? Is Rob Penny taking notes?
Who's on his phone soon, to tell Rob Penny, mate?
Did you know something I didn't know?
To make me look good.
This is massive for the Hurricanes in the context of their season. After the weekend, they need to find to get some momentum back into their year. If they get a win here, that would be massive.
Yeah, they got turned over as well by the Crusaders, early in the season, so they'll be after a bit of revenge as well. But then, equally, what's their confidence levels like? So, great game.
What about, we mentioned it at the top, but Moan Pasifika against the Blues. Finally, this Battle of Auckland, it is back. And it is actually on the table for the first time, you'd have to say, in 4 seasons, because Moana are up there and they can beat the Blues.
Absolutely. And the stage is perfectly set. They're getting great crowds over there at North Harbour Stadium for Moan Pasifika. Now they're taking on the Blues. They're on fire. They're playing great rugby. The Blues are desperate, so that also makes you a little insular. How are they going to play? They're up against a completely different animal than they've ever experienced this year.
Maybe without their captain as well.
Exactly. Afternoon rugby at Eden Park, and you've got the Pacific final that's on after that as well. It's just really set, and I'm so looking forward to seeing who's got the most amount of fans there, and then the game to deliver. Really exciting.
For you, Jeff? What are you most looking forward to?
I'm heading back to Dunedin. I always love going back to Dunedin to watch my Highlanders get back in the race. Because if they don't get back in the race this weekend against the Fijian Drua, who don't travel, let's be honest, they don't travel very well at all, but they were a little bit disappointing. But I think for the Drua, their season's on the line as well.
If they're ever the most dangerous, though, it's under the roof, isn't it?
Dry
ground, they know exactly how they can play.
They haven't played great there before. But the Highlanders, I was disappointed They made a lot of errors and left the force into the game. This needs to be their best performance of the year, because if they don't win this, the rest of the season looks really difficult. Waratahs Chiefs coming up in Australia, and a massive derby between the Reds and the Brumbies as well. You talked about the table earlier and you said there's New Zealand derbies and Australian derbies, and teams are going to start knocking each other out. How big is that, the Reds Brumbies? Every game is big. Every game, every weekend, you'll see a match up and go, well, that'll flip them, that'll flip them. Yeah. I said it was 2009 that was the most competitive. This continues to deliver. Keeps going. How good. Marty, great to have you back on the program this week. Mills, Jeff, and thank you so much for joining us this week. Before you say anything, we will see you.
Happy birthday.
Yeah.
Sunday.